The message arrived at 2:41 station time, slipping through the research vessel's calm filters like a whisper from a world that shouldn't have known his name. Doctor. Marcus Hale was half asleep, hunched over a stack of microbial culture reports, when his console flared with a cold, crystalline pulse, nothing like the blunt military alerts he was used to. This light was softer, older, almost melodic. He blinked, sat up, and immediately knocked over the last cup of synth coffee he'd been pretending tasted like something drinkable. The spill spread across the desk in a shimmering pool, reflecting the pulsating sigil now rotating above the console. A ring of luminous geometry folding in and out of dimensions his translator struggled to interpret. Unknown origin, the station AI murmured. Unknown encryption, unknown harmonic pattern, probability of hoax, 0. Marcus felt his heartbeat steady into something sharper, curiosity, the kind that had always gotten him into trouble. The sigil contracted, spiraling inward until it became a single point of starlight, then expanded again, revealing a face he had not seen in 20 years. Aeris. Not Princess Aeris, not the heir of the Lumerian ascendancy, not the cosmic prodigy whose people allegedly sculpted matter the way humans sculpted clay. Just Aeris, the girl who once sat beside him on a dusty refugee world, holding fragments of broken circuitry as though they were seashells worth collecting. The girl whose silver eyes glowed faintly even in darkness, who had shown him how to listen to the hum of a dying generator and hear the microcurrents inside it. Except she wasn't a girl anymore. The hologram showed a woman with luminous silver skin patterned by soft bioluminescent lines that pulsed with her heartbeat. Her long, elegantly shaped ears framed a face both devastatingly beautiful and unmistakably alien, crowned with a faint halo of shifting light. Regal, composed, radiant. "Hello, Marcus," she said, her voice layered with harmonics that made the air in his cabin vibrate. "If you are receiving this, then the council approved my request." She paused, a soft, almost human hesitation. "I hope you still remember me." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Aeris gods." Her lips curved with something between relief and nervousness. "I have ascended to the throne. The coronation is in 6 cycles. I wish," she caught herself, then straightened, slipping into the poise of a queen. "I formally request your presence as my honored guest." A guest, no. There was something else beneath her tone, something warmer, older, fragile. Then she said it. "Marcus, when we were children, you made me a promise, one I have never forgotten." His stomach dropped. "Aeris, we were 8. "Promises made in innocence are the purest of all," she replied. "My people take them seriously, and her voice softened. "I want to know if you meant it." The message ended. Marcus stared at the static-filled air where her image had vanished. The promise. God, how could he forget? On New Terra 3, on the night before her family was forced to flee the colony, she had asked him, voice trembling, eyes bright, if humans kept promises. He'd sworn he did, sworn that when they grew up, when she wasn't alone anymore, he would find her. Stand with her. Never let her face the stars alone. He'd been 8, she'd been 9, and the universe had been kinder then. Now she was a queen, and she'd called him across the galaxy to ask if he still meant it. The AI broke the silence. "Shall I prepare a diplomatic refusal?" Marcus shook his head, slowly, very slowly. "No, prepare my departure." He rose, stepping over the cooling puddle of synth coffee, as though leaving behind the life he'd built on this isolated research outpost. Outside his cabin window, the stars stretched in silent, indifferent constellations. The same stars Aeris had once traced with tiny glowing fingers, telling him how light bent when it traveled through sorrow. He hadn't thought of that in years. A soft tremor ran through him. He didn't know if Aeris expected him to stay forever. He didn't know why she really called him. But he knew one thing with absolute clarity. The transport vessel assigned to him by the Lumerian ascendancy didn't so much travel as it slipped between gravity like silk through fingers. Marcus had flown military carriers, diplomatic frigates, even a research skimmer designed by a brilliant intern who didn't fully understand the concept of inertia. But nothing prepared him for this. The ship seemed alive. Its walls pulsed with soft starlight, each vein-thin filament humming like a muted violin string. The floor adjusted to his balance. The air tasted faintly of something sweet and electric, as though the vessel breathed with him. "Try to relax," his escort said from the opposite seat. Commander Rylan, tall, silver-skinned, bioluminescent patterns flowing across his arms like shifting constellations. His ears tapered elegantly upward, each movement accented by a faint chime from his crystalline ear jewelry. "This is your first time aboard a Lumerian vessel, yes?" Marcus nodded. Feels like I'm inside a cathedral built by someone with a physics degree and a god complex. Rylan grinned, revealing faintly luminescent teeth. Close, our engineers are temperamental artists. They take it personally if the ship does not sing to its passengers. Sing, as if on cue the vessel emitted a soft, harmonic ripple, a shimmering resonance that vibrated in Marcus's bones. It was not unpleasant, just impossibly strange. The ship recognizes your biometrics now, Rylan explained. It adjusts its harmonic field so you do not dissolve accidentally if we pass through a spatial fold. Marcus blinked. Accidentally what? But Rylan only smirked, and the ship performed a maneuver that tore the fabric of reality open like a curtain. The stars elongated into crystalline streaks. Space folded inward, then outward, then sideways into shapes Marcus's mind politely refused to process. His vision blurred with color, time, and motion that did not agree on which direction they were going. Is this normal? Marcus asked through clenched teeth. Mostly, Rylan replied cheerfully. The last human we transported threw up for 19 minutes. Comforting. Think of it this way, the commander offered. If the fold destabilizes, you will simply cease to exist before your brain can register fear. Oh good, ideal. Rylan laughed, the sound bright, resonant, almost musical. Marcus found himself staring. Lumerians were beautiful in a way that challenged human definitions, elegantly angular, shimmering, impossibly graceful. But even among them, Aeris had always been different, more radiant, more curious, more alive. He didn't realize he'd gone quiet until Rylan's markings dimmed thoughtfully. You knew her before. Not a question, a statement. Yes, Marcus said, before she was all of this. Before she was queen. Rylan watched him with an expression Marcus couldn't decipher. She rarely speaks of her past, but she requested you with a level of authority we do not question. Marcus shifted. What exactly did she tell the council? Rylan leaned back. Only that there is a human whose presence she requires at her coronation. No explanation. No political justification. None. Marcus swallowed. That alone was terrifying. Lumerian leadership was infamous for operating with centuries-long strategy. For Aeris to break protocol so dramatically. God, does the council think this is improper? He ventured. One of Rylan's ears twitched in amusement. The council thinks many things. They think you must be significant. They think humans are unpredictable. And they think Queen Aeris has already made up her mind about something they don't understand. Marcus's pulse spiked. He wasn't sure if it was fear or something far more complicated. You worry, Rylan said softly. Understandable, you left her when you were children, yes. Marcus flinched. Her family had to leave the colony. It wasn't my choice. No, Rylan agreed. But it was hers. She told me once that human children do not always understand the weight of their own words, yet she insisted your promise mattered. Marcus looked down at his hands. That was 20 years ago. Time is not uniform across cultures, Rylan replied. Among Lumerians, a childhood promise is not dismissed. It is honored, preserved. It becomes a harmonic thread in the soul. Marcus felt the cabin tighten around him, reality bending again as the ship decelerated toward normal space. Why me? He whispered. Rylan studied him with eerie calm. Perhaps because you saw her not as royalty, not as an alien, but as a lonely girl who hummed to broken machines, and believed the stars could be repaired if someone just listened long enough. Marcus's breath caught. He hadn't thought anyone remembered that. The ship shuddered, reality knitting itself back together with a muted thrum. The viewport brightened, revealing a sight so vast and impossible Marcus forgot how to breathe. The Lumerian capital. 3 crescent-shaped planetoids orbiting each other in perfect symmetry, connected by bridges of shimmering energy. Towers grew like crystalline vines, spiraling toward the void. Cities glowed with soft ultraviolet light, each structure pulsing with harmonic rhythms visible even from orbit. Rivers of iridescent liquid flowed upward toward floating gardens. Transport pathways curled through the air like luminescent ribbons. The landing platform felt less like solid ground and more like condensed moonlight. Marcus stepped out of the vessel and immediately questioned whether the surface beneath him was real. It shimmered when touched, sending faint ripples of bioluminescent color across the crystalline expanse. Rylan descended behind him, clasping his hands behind his back with the kind of casual elegance only a Lumerian could pull off. Stay close, he advised. The palace grounds are harmonic constructs. They respond well to calm intention, poorly to panic. Defined poorly. You will fall through the floor. Marcus swallowed hard. The platform led into a sweeping archway formed of interwoven light strands, each one vibrating gently as if plucked by invisible fingers. As Marcus stepped beneath it, the archway resonated, producing a soft chord that made his chest tighten. It's reading your neural signature, Rylan explained. Announcing you. Announcing me to who? Rylan didn't answer. Not because he refused, he simply didn't need to. Because two figures had appeared at the end of the corridor, their bioluminescent markings dimmed in deference. Lumerian attendants, dressed in flowing robes that shimmered like liquid starlight, and between them. His breath caught, Aeris stepped forward. The corridor brightened around her as though recognizing its queen. She wore ceremonial attire, not ornate, not heavy, but impossibly elegant. A fitted gown of pale, luminescent fabric that moved like living water, accented by subtle crystalline threads that pulsed with her heartbeat. Her long ears were adorned with delicate ear jewels that chimed softly with every movement, catching stray beams of light and bending them into color shifts too complex for human vision. But her eyes, those silver, starlit eyes, those had not changed, not at all. Marcus, she said softly. His name in her voice, layered harmonics, warm undertones, a faint resonance that stirred something in his chest he hadn't felt in decades, made him forget the rest of the world. Aeris, he managed, though it came out more like a breath than a word. For a moment the corridor was silent, not tense, just suspended, like the universe itself had paused to watch two people remember who they used to be. Then she moved toward him, not with the poised step of a queen before her court, but with the small, careful hesitation of someone who was unsure if they were still allowed to be familiar. When she stopped in front of him, they were close enough that he could see the faint fractal patterns in her bioluminescent markings, the subtle rise and fall of her breath, the soft glimmer of recognition in her eyes. "You came," she whispered. "I didn't think I had a choice," he admitted truthfully. Aeris's lips curved slightly. "You always have a choice, Marcus. That's why I hoped you'd come." Hoped, not expected, not demanded, hoped. Marcus swallowed the sudden tightness in his throat. He tried to stand straighter, to speak with some semblance of diplomatic composure. But she tilted her head with that familiar curiosity, and suddenly he was 8 years old again, sitting beside her on the dusty metal steps of a refugee shelter while she explained how starlight bends when it remembers something painful. "You grew up," she said, her voice soft, her gaze searching his face. "Humans change so quickly. I feel as though I blinked and missed entire eras of your life." "You grew up too," Marcus replied, "just more dramatically." "That," she murmured with a faint smile, "is the least graceful way anyone has ever described a coronation." Rylan cleared his throat politely. "Your Radiance, the Council awaits your ceremonial attendance." Aeris lifted one hand, silencing him without looking away from Marcus. A simple gesture, but the air thrummed in response. The walls dimmed respectfully, and Rylan bowed instantly. This was not the child Marcus once knew. This was a queen, and yet, underneath the regal veneer, he saw her. The same Aeris who used to pull apart damaged starship parts just to show him the hidden melodies inside the circuitry. The same girl who used to hum softly when she was nervous, unaware the harmonics made the air shimmer around her. She studied him for several quiet seconds. "Walk with me," she said at last. He followed without question. They moved through the palace corridor, its walls shifting in gentle waves of light, forming patterns Marcus suspected corresponded to Aeris's emotional state. Lumerian architecture wasn't passive. It listened, reacted, harmonized. "Your message caught me off guard," Marcus said. "I didn't expect." "Me to remember," she finished. "To summon me across the galaxy," he corrected. Aeris's steps slowed. The corridor dimmed, colors cooling into softer blues. "When I ascended," she said, "the Council insisted I choose allies, political bonds, strategic partnerships. And you chose a xenobiologist from a remote station." Her eyes flickered with emotion, bright, then dim, then bright again. "I chose someone I trusted," she whispered. Marcus's chest tightened. 20 years is a long time," he said quietly. "Not for us," she replied. "For humans, perhaps, but for my kind, 20 years is 2 deep breaths." He frowned. "Then why did you call me?" She paused, turning toward a vast crystalline balcony overlooking the Lumerian capital. Cities shimmered below them, floating gardens drifting on harmonic currents. The air hummed like a living chorus. "When we were children," Aeris said slowly, "you made me a promise." Marcus shut his eyes briefly. Aeris, we didn't even understand what we were saying. Her voice, when it came, was fragile in a way he had never heard from her, not even as a child. I understood enough to know what it meant to feel seen, she said. You, Marcus, you were the only one who spoke to me like I was just a person, not a political refugee, not an alien curiosity, not a responsibility. He opened his eyes. She was looking at him with that same soft, devastating openness she used to have when she wanted him to understand something important. I didn't call you here because of duty, Aeris continued. I called you because, after everything, your promise still matters to me. Silence settled between them. Heavy, warm, terrifying, Marcus forced himself to breathe. Aeris, what exactly do you want from me? Her silver eyes glowed brighter, not with power, but with something far more dangerous. Truth, she said. Before I face my people as queen, I need one person in the galaxy who speaks to me honestly. And the promise, Marcus whispered. Aeris inhaled slowly, then stepped closer, close enough that the harmonic field around her brushed against his skin like a soft whisper of static. We'll decide what that promise means, she said, together. Marcus felt the world tilt silently beneath him, not from fear, not from the alien beauty surrounding him, but because, for the first time since he'd left his quiet research station, he felt like the ground was truly real beneath his feet. The Hall of Resonance was not built for humans. Marcus realized this the moment its doors opened, massive crystalline panels folding into themselves like blooming flowers, revealing a chamber so vast it seemed to exist partially outside physical space. Light streamed from no single source, yet every surface glowed with shifting harmonics that flowed like living auroras. The air vibrated faintly, tuned to the emotional frequency of the gathering inside. Hundreds of Lumerians stood in arranged tiers. Their bioluminescent patterns shimmered like constellations trapped in motion. Their long, elegant ears angled toward Aeris as she entered, registering her presence in a way Marcus could only interpret as instinctive reverence. He felt instantly painfully human. Rylan stepped to Marcus's side. The council will not bite, he murmured, though they may stare intensely. Comforting, Marcus whispered. Aeris walked ahead with serene poise, her gown trailing like liquid starlight. But Marcus noticed the subtle tension in her shoulders, the same micro-hesitation she used to have when she approached unfamiliar adults as a child. This room intimidated her. That made two of them. As Aeris ascended the central dais, the hall dimmed. A single harmonic tone rose from the crystalline floor, pure, resonant, almost mournful. It deepened, layered, then blossomed into chords that seemed to pulse in Marcus's chest. Rylan leaned closer. It is the hall acknowledging her ascension. The harmonics respond only to a rightful queen. Marcus stared. It sings to her. It sings with her, Rylan corrected. Resonance is a bond, not a command. Aeris raised one hand, not dramatically, just enough to let the hall know she was ready. The sound softened, settling into a faint, shimmering undercurrent. Then she spoke. My people, Aeris said, voice steady, harmonics threading through her words, we gather to formalize a future woven from both tradition and change. The crowd's markings brightened in acknowledgement. Aeris's gaze flickered briefly toward Marcus, 1 second, maybe less, but enough to make his breath hitch. In the cycles ahead, she continued, the Lumerian ascendancy will expand our diplomatic reach, and we begin with transparency. Whispers rolled through the chamber. Rylan's markings pulsed with restrained amusement. Brace yourself, he murmured. Aeris turned toward Marcus and extended her hand outward, not beckoning him but presenting him. This is Dr. Marcus Hale of the Terran Federation, Aeris announced. Xenobiologist, researcher, and someone whose presence I trust. Trust, not alliance, not political asset, trust. Marcus felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes fall on him, analyzing, questioning, measuring. The harmonic field shifted, brushing faintly against his thoughts, curiosity, surprise, even disapproval vibrating in the air like distant thunder. A counselor stepped forward, tall, stern, markings rigid with dissonance. Counselor Varen. He radiated authority like a gravitational field. Your radiance, Varen said. The presence of an unbonded human within the hall during a post-ascension session is unprecedented. Marcus practically felt Rylan tense beside him. Aeris didn't flinch. So is the era we enter. Varen's gaze slid to Marcus, cold, analytical. Does he understand the implications of standing beside the queen in a harmonic chamber? Marcus opened his mouth, but Aeris spoke first. He understands what matters, she said. Honesty, curiosity, integrity. The dissonance in Varen's markings sharpened. Your radiance, humans are impulsive, emotion-driven. Their species often fails to honor vows made under youthful ignorance. Marcus stiffened. He knew exactly what Varen meant, what this was about, what promise Aeris had brought him here to confront. But Aeris stepped forward, light sliding along her gown like the soft ripple of dawn. "Counselor," she said, voice gentle but unyielding, "are you proposing that my judgment is impaired?" Silence slammed through the chamber. Varen bowed slightly. "I propose only that our traditions guard against naivete. And I propose that understanding grows from shared experience," Aeris countered. "Dr. Hale will remain as an observer during my coronation cycle, and during that time, we will engage in joint research initiatives between our people." Murmurs rippled. Rylan whispered, "She planned this ahead of time." Marcus swallowed. He wasn't sure if he was relieved or terrified. Varen tilted his head. Research or bonding? A charged question. Marcus felt his pulse spike. Everyone knew what Varen meant. Lumerian bonding wasn't romantic, not strictly. It was deeper, older, a merging of harmonics. A commitment of trust. Aeris didn't break eye contact with the counselor. "That," she said softly, "will be decided by those directly involved." Marcus realized she meant him and her. Not the council, not the ascendancy, them. The hall reacted like a living organism, light flaring in patterns of shock, interest, excitement, and disapproval. Rylan leaned close. "Well, the subtle approach is dead." Marcus whispered back, "Was this the plan?" "No," Rylan said. "This is Aeris. She doesn't choose safe paths." The chamber quieted as Aeris turned back to her people. "We cannot build a future of isolation," she said, her voice resonating through the crystalline walls. "Our survival, our evolution, depends on harmonies formed beyond our borders." She breathed once slowly. "And some harmonies begin long before we understand them." Marcus felt that line like a hand pressed gently against his chest. Varen bowed, though his markings flickered with unresolved tension. "Very well, Your Radiance. The Council will observe this experiment." The lights dimmed further, a sign the session was concluding. Aeris descended the dais, approaching Marcus with controlled grace, but he saw the relief behind her composure. "You handled that well," she murmured. Marcus huffed. "I didn't do anything. You stood beside me," she said. "That is more than I expected." Her voice softened, almost imperceptibly. "More than I dared to hope." Before he could respond, the hall lights adjusted again, signaling a shift from political protocol to ceremonial preparation. Aeris stepped closer, not quite touching him, but close enough that he felt the faint warmth radiating from her bioluminescent patterns. "Come," she said quietly. "There's something I want to show you before the coronation. Somewhere only two people in the galaxy have." The palace corridors grew quieter as Aeris led Marcus away from the Hall of Resonance. The light itself dimmed, harmonics softening as though the architecture understood the sacredness of where she intended to take him. The air grew warmer, scented faintly with something like jasmine wrapped in static. Lumerian royal signatures carried distinct aromatic undertones the AI had mentioned once. "Aeris," Marcus said softly as they walked, "how restricted is this place we're going to?" She didn't look back, but her voice carried a gravity he felt in his bones. "There are chambers in this palace reserved for the crown alone. My father had one, his father before him. They are memory sanctuaries, echo vaults. They hold the resonant imprint of a ruler's soul." Marcus slowed. "And you're taking me to yours." Aeris paused at the end of the corridor, faint blue light curling around the edges of her silhouette. For a moment she looked less like a queen and more like the girl he used to sit beside on the dusty steps of a refugee camp. Eyes bright, thoughts too vast for her small body, humming when she felt things she didn't have words for. "You were the only one who ever knew me before I had to be something," she whispered. "Before politics, before expectation, before the ascendancy decided who I was allowed to be. I want you to see the part of me that even my council has never glimpsed." The door in front of her responded, not to her voice, but to her intention. The crystalline surface unfurled like petals made of frozen sunlight, revealing a chamber filled with soft, rippling luminescence. Marcus stepped inside and stopped breathing. The room felt alive, like a heart, like a memory, like a star dreaming. Crystalline filaments wove themselves through the space in slow, spiraling motions. Each strand pulsed faintly, as if carrying echoes of something ancient. The air vibrated with soft harmonics that made Marcus's ribs resonate gently, and at the center of the chamber, a floating sphere of condensed light. Aeris approached it with reverence. This, she said, is the echo core. It contains the harmonic memory of the Lumerian crown. Every ruler's essence contributes to its structure, their fears, their hopes, their scars, their triumphs. Marcus stepped closer, mesmerized. The sphere shifted as he approached, threads of color stretching toward him, curious. Hold out your hand, Aeris whispered. He hesitated. Will it burn? It will listen, she said, and it will recognize the imprint of someone tied to my past. Tentatively, Marcus extended his hand. The echo core responded instantly. Light reached out, soft, warm, impossibly gentle, curling around his fingers like liquid starlight. The harmonic resonance deepened, and Marcus felt something inside him loosen, soften, open. It wasn't painful. It wasn't overwhelming. It felt like being recognized, like a forgotten part of himself being pulled into focus. Aeris watched him, her expression unreadable but filled with something raw and unguarded. When I was a child, she murmured, this chamber terrified me. My father brought me here only once. He told me the core would one day carry my imprint, my truth. But I didn't want it to know who I was. I was afraid that if it saw me, really saw me, it would deem me unworthy. Marcus's breath caught as he looked at her. Why tell me this? Her eyes glimmered, bright silver ringed with soft violet. Because I'm not afraid with you here. The words were simple, but they struck him like a gravity shift. The echo core pulsed softly, casting shimmering reflections across Aeris's skin. For once, her bioluminescent markings dimmed, not in weakness, but in vulnerability. There's more, she said quietly. Something I've told no one. Marcus stepped closer, the core's light framing them in a faint halo. Aeris inhaled slowly. Lumerian tradition assumes I will form a bond with someone of equal harmonic stability. Someone whose presence strengthens the resonance of the crown. My council believes this must be political, strategic. And you do, he asked gently, her voice trembled. I don't want a bond built on obligation. I want one built on truth, on choice. Her gaze lifted to his, searching, hoping, fearful. You were the first person who ever chose me freely. Marcus felt the words settle deep inside him. Warm, piercing, impossible to ignore. Aeris, he whispered, that was 20 years ago, we were children. But we felt honestly, she said. Purely, without pressure, without expectation, that sincerity mattered, it still matters. The echo core brightened, as if responding to the raw openness between them. Marcus forced a breath. Are you asking if we're meant to bond? Aeris's expression softened. No. I'm asking if you're willing to explore what our bond might be without the weight of duty crushing it into something else. Her words hung in the chamber, fragile, hopeful, trembling with possibility. Marcus stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth of her harmonics brushing against his skin. I don't know what the future looks like, he admitted, but I know I'm not afraid to find out with you. Aeris's eyes shimmered, light rippling outward from the core as if echoing her emotion. He continued softly, and I meant what I said when I was 8. I didn't want you to face the stars alone. And now, she whispered, now I understand what those stars really mean. Aeris exhaled, a breath that seemed to release years of held tension. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, almost human. Then there is something more I must show you. Something only a Lumerian mate would ever witness. But I want you to see it because I trust you. Because part of me has always waited for you to stand here again. Marcus's chest tightened. Aeris, I'm not asking for an answer now, she said quickly. Only for your presence, for your honesty, for your willingness to walk this uncertain path. He reached out, hesitant at first, then rested his hand gently on hers. Aeris, he said quietly, I'm here, show me. Her fingers tightened around his, the faint harmonic field around her hand pulsing in warm waves. Then follow me, she breathed. The echo core dimmed, parting its light to form a narrow pathway deeper into the echo core parted fully, its luminous strands peeling back like the petals of some celestial flower. Beyond it lay a narrow passage, dark, silent, carved not from crystal but from shadows themselves. The air shifted as Marcus and Aeris stepped inside, the temperature dropping to a cool hush that prickled Marcus's skin. This place, Marcus whispered, it feels different. Aeris nodded softly. It is. Her bioluminescent markings dimmed the moment they crossed the threshold, as though the chamber was absorbing her light. The sound around them vanished completely, not muted, not dampened, but absent, like stepping into a place that existed before sound was invented. This is the veiled chamber, Aeris said, her voice echoing faintly in a way that made Marcus's bones hum. Here, the resonance of the crown is stripped away. Titles hold no weight. Power has no voice, only truth remains. Marcus swallowed. Why bring me here? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she guided him deeper into the chamber, where a circular platform floated above a pool of dark mirror-like liquid. A soft, trembling light pulsed at its center, nothing like the bright, harmonious glow of the echo core. This light was raw, fragile, alive. Aeris stepped onto the platform. Marcus followed, feeling the gentle shift beneath his feet as it adjusted to their combined presence. "It's beautiful," Marcus murmured. Aeris stared at the trembling light. "It's terrifying." He turned to her. "Why?" "Because this is the Luminic heart," she whispered. "The true core of a Lumerian soul. Every monarch brings their heart here once, only once, before they can ascend fully. It reveals who you are beneath every expectation, every mask, every duty." Marcus felt a chill trace his spine. "And you wanted me to see yours." Aeris met his gaze, and he understood the answer before she said it. "Because I don't want to be alone when it reveals me." Her voice cracked. Aeris, the queen, the woman whose people shaped gravity into art, whose presence commanded entire councils, was trembling. He stepped closer. "Aeris, I need you to understand," she continued, words barely above a breath, "that a queen's heart doesn't lie. If I step into this light, it will show you everything I am, everything I fear, everything I want, everything I have lost." She closed her eyes, "And everything I hope for." Marcus's chest tightened painfully. He reached out hesitant, gentle, and touched her hands. She let him. "I'm not here to judge you," he said softly. "I'm not here to hold you to a childhood promise. I'm here because you called and because I care." Her breath hitched. "Marcus," she whispered, "if my heart reveals that She swallowed. "That my bond aligns with yours, humans might see it as affection, but for my people it is destiny. It is commitment woven into the fabric of our soul. It cannot be undone." Marcus felt the weight of her words, the magnitude, the risk she was taking, and he stepped closer anyway. "Whatever it shows," he said, "you won't face it alone." Aeris finally opened her eyes, bright silver burning with vulnerability and wonder. Then she stepped into the light. It rose like breath, soft, trembling, warm, then enveloped her completely. Her markings flared, her silhouette dissolving into shifting patterns that hovered in the air like constellations unfolding. Marcus watched as the Luminic heart responded to her presence, projecting harmonics that resonated with emotions he could feel in his chest. Not here feel loneliness, hope, fear, strength, longing, joy, regret, wonder, and beneath them all. Beneath every echo of her past and every tremor of her future. A steady, pulsing warmth, direct, focused, unmistakable, it pointed toward him. Marcus sucked in a breath as the light tightened, coalescing into a single glowing symbol suspended between them. A pattern he recognized from childhood, from memory, from the night she left. Aeris reached out, breath trembling. The symbol floated into her palm, settling against her skin before dissolving into her markings. When the last shard of light faded, the chamber slowly brightened again. She looked at him, not as a queen, not as a monarch, not as the luminous heir of an ancient species, but as the girl he once knew, the woman she had become, the soul the heart had revealed. "Marcus," she whispered, "my Luminic heart recognized you." His breath caught. "Does that mean?" "It means," she said, stepping closer, "that part of me, part of who I am at my deepest core, has been aligned with you since we were children." He stared at her, stunned, not afraid, not overwhelmed, just seen. "Aeris," he murmured, "I don't know what the future looks like. I don't know if I'm ready for something so." "I'm not asking for fate," she said gently. "I'm asking for a beginning." The tension in his chest loosened into something warm. Hope. Quiet, steady, unexpected. He reached out, touching her cheek lightly. The harmonic field around her responded with a soft pulse, their frequencies brushing gently, two threads beginning to weave, not yet a bond, but no longer separate. "A beginning," Marcus echoed. "That I can give." Aeris exhaled, relief washing over her features like sunrise. Then the chamber responded, soft harmonics rising, warm lights pulsing, acknowledging the alignment of two souls willing to explore the path ahead. Aeris slipped her fingers between his, not claiming, not binding, just connecting. "Walk with me," she said softly. "There is so much to learn about resonance, about the ascendancy, about each other." Marcus squeezed her hand. "Then let's start." They walked out of the veiled chamber together, past the Luminic heart, through the echo core's shimmering threshold, and back into a world waiting for a queen and a human who had finally found each other again. The path ahead was uncertain, complex, possibly impossible. But for the first time since he left his lonely research station, Marcus felt like he wasn't stepping into the unknown alone. He had Aeris.